Hey guys, Josh from the Ancient History Guy here. Hello and welcome to all. I hope you are doing extremely well. Anyways, today we are going to talk about one of the more fascinating cities of ancient Greece, Sparta. Now, Sparta had some odd quirks, but none are more interesting than the fact that Sparta had two kings. So, let's get into it. So a bit of background on the two kings. For one, they were from two distinct royal families, both of which were allegedly descended from the mythical hero Hercules. Now, the way the kingship usually worked is the eldest is made king after their father dies, which was true for each of the kings, but may also have played a part in why Sparta had two kings. According to legend, before the rule of two was put into practice, Sparta did indeed have just one king. However, when the queen gave birth to twins, she could not remember which had been born first, and therefore did not know who was actually the eldest. Stumped by this, the ever-religious Spartans consulted the oracle Delphi, who simply replied, "Make both of the children king, but give more honour and power to the eldest." So the Spartans had the blessing of the oracle just to make both kings king. However, they still had the problem that they did not know which of the two was actually the oldest. Eventually, a passerby suggested they watch the queen to see who she cared for first, as this was sure to be the eldest. The Spartans did this and discovered who the eldest were of the twins. Now, this is a fun little story, but also, in my opinion, complete and utter nonsense. There may have been many reasons as to why Sparta had two kings. One of the more logical reasons as to why Sparta had two kings goes back to the founding of Sparta, specifically the merging of towns into one big town. The rulers of each of these towns agreed they would remain kings and share the power between them. However, this theory is thrown out of the window as Sparta didn't actually exist as one solid town, but rather as a collection of various different villages that loosely covered the area they called Sparta. So that's this theory completely thrown out of the window. What likely happened is during one of Sparta's many political reforms, a clause was put into the law saying that Sparta had to have two kings, if not just to act as figureheads for the Spartan people as a whole. It's likely that the claim that each of these kings had to be from a family descended from the mythical Hercules was added to give it an extra bit of weight to grant these rulers the right to rule. Hercules was seen as quite an admirable demigod/god in ancient Greece, and so having him as one of your king's quote-unquote descendants gave the Spartans great prestige. The question now is, well, why two kings? The thing is, having two rulers isn't exactly out of the ordinary. Another noticeable example, although not a hereditary line, is that of ancient Rome. Ancient Rome was ruled via a senate, in many ways much like the Spartan system, but we'll get onto that later. Head of the senate were two elected war magistrates known as consuls. Each consul was meant to balance out the other. For example, you would often see younger men paired with more experienced men occupying the position. The idea behind this was that one consul could stay behind and look after the city, whilst another could go out and fight Rome's enemies. The same basic idea applied to Sparta. When one king was away fighting, the other king would stay behind and look after the home front. The only real difference between this system and that of the Roman system was, as mentioned before, each Spartan king had to be the eldest of a family line tracing all the way back to Hercules. But much like the Roman consuls, it seemed that the Spartan kings actually did balance each other out. Having no one source of absolute power gave neither family the need to steal power from the other, as they were both equal in power. This also added the benefit that if one of the kings died in battle, there wasn't exactly a succession struggle because the family always had a suitable elder candidate to step in their place. However, in reality, the Spartan kings actually held very little power over the Spartan kingdom. For one, they were largely seen as figureheads that occasionally performed religious duties to make it seem like they were actually doing something for the people. In reality, a majority of the power was actually in a council of elders. Spartans valued the advice of their elders so much that much of the real power actually resided within this council. A noticeable example of this power is when Leonidas attempted to assemble the Spartan army in order to combat the invading Persians, on the basis that the city was in the middle of a sacred religious festival. Of course, Leonidas found a loophole and went to fight the Persians anyway. So, what do I think of this? Well, I think it's a kind of cool solution to the problem Sparta had. For one, they needed to have a face that they would be able to tell the masses this is the person in charge. But also, they didn't want that person to be too power hungry and cause all sorts of havoc. Having two kings definitely seemed to have solved this issue. As for the system being weird and unusual, well, you just have to look at the evidence, it really wasn't. In all but a few minor details, the system was essentially the same as the Roman Republic system, just a bit more focused on the king side of things than the whole election side of things. I think what's also interesting is that Spartan kings were essentially figureheads. Despite having the appearance of having all the power, in reality they had very little. Most of the power was actually held by a group of elders, whilst the king's duties was basically all for show, the odd religious ceremony, and the odd leading troops, that sort of thing. But anyway, those are my opinions. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below! Thank you for watching and listening to our videos. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe if you've enjoyed. All sources are listed and linked in the description below. I've been the Ancient History Guy, and as always, I'll be seeing you later.